the new show?
Yes.
And our very special guest coming in?
Yes, Sacha Stone, brilliant man. Good morning. Thanks for being on.
A very good afternoon to you guys.
Yes,
there you go.
yes.
Very much so. So Sacha, there seems to be this diverging of these two worlds. One, people waking up out of the matrix, and there's a revealing of how we are spiritual, mighty, powerful beings, and there's exciting times to be alive, right? And then you have this other end where you have this kind of satanic, demonic world trying to be pushed onto humanity, like we just saw at the Grammys last night. I think his name's Sam Smith, right?
Yes.
And so you just watched a video coming into the break here. It seems like, it's tough because the power brokers that are in charge of the world, as you know, and you speak about all the time, are basically these, satanic 17 Satanists, right? These folks are really pushing this agenda. Which one's going to win, and how do we know that which side to choose, especially if our children are being indoctrinated into the sexiness of Satanism?
Well, it's a great question, and it's one which is in Technicolor today, as you rightly say, when all of the prime platforms of entertainment and social cultural engagement have been co-opted into the Luciferic and satanic iconoclasticism, because that's what we're talking about. This is just a Catholic Church 2.0. This is what was happening 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, with cathedrals and churches, and the way in which the network of the churchish mind used to go out using stained glass imagery and iconoclasticism, images of Jesus looking like some beautiful beatific creature with a long flowing beard, when the truth of the matter was very, very different. The Jesus of today that people popularly believe in, as you well know, is not true. It's an image, an icon, an image of Caesar Borgia, of the black nobility, scion of the black nobility, which was again a corruption in the messaging of the true Christ. But the point being that all of the satanic and Luciferic imagery is a war of images, is a war of icons, of archetypes, of spells, which are still being perpetrated against a very sophisticated mindset today. So that's why you see NFL and Super Bowl and the Grammys and the Oscars and all of the chief strap lines of entertainment, the entertainment complex, are all essentially harnessing and harvesting our attention toward these images for good reason. Because there is a subtle fourth dimensional battle going on. But it's an old battle. It's an age-old one. It's just becoming technicolored because, and the technicolor is a testament to the fact that the satanic egregore cloud intelligence is actually losing its thrall and its traction with the human plasma, the human spirit. So I would say it's a good thing when we start to see these bold-faced images playing out of Baphomet and Molochite worshipping Canaanite ritualistic nonsense playing out in Super Bowl or on the stages of rock and roll theaters. To my mind, it's in a sense a good thing because it's becoming so obvious to the Christic or the Christed mind that it's becoming reprehensible and repugnant to the good human in the mainframe. And that is going to be a very, very profound sea change. It's going to help to resurrect the collective spiritual morality, will find its regenesis in this morass of satanic iconoclasticism. I hope I'm not being too wordy. It's just that regard all of this Luciferic satanic iconoclasticism as the texture against which we define our Christed supernature. And if you see it as that, then you see redemption and salvation in sight.
And
what does that even look like, though? How do you protect yourself from that? How do you protect yourself from being harvested on?
You step back from iconoclasticism. You step back from idolatry. It's the same old message of the Master from Nazareth. You step and from the Gautama Buddha and from Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, all the great prophets, Moses as well. All the great prophets spoke to the same thing when Moses came down from Mount Sinai and Catherine, where St. Catherine's is today in Sinai. When he came down and saw his followers were worshipping the golden calf, and he, the same old, Jesus overthrowing the moneylenders' tables. It's the same old thing. It's idolatry, false light worship, our self-elected wrong identification with Luciferic or false light images, which is money, fame, celebrity, competitive sports, winning. All of that nonsense is the corruption in the angelic field.
The seven deadly sins, and yes. I love how you are talking. I know you interviewed a few people before. I love the name conscious conspiracy, that we're becoming conscious of the conspiracy going on, because the CIA has been pushing, conspiracy theories for a long time, since JFK murder, right? And now people are waking up. Well, these are real conspiracies going on, and it's very conscious. And one of the conspiracies you talk about, you had one on your guest, I think it was on your Awaken Gorilla Network, which is, by the way, brilliant name. Yes. Gorilla Network. Come on, let's get Gorilla now.
Yeah. Right? Alpha.
Is Elena Freeman, I believe
Freeland.
Her name was. Freeland, yes. And she, you mentioned about this, they're moving us into this geoengineering, transhumanism, right? And a lot of the folks are taking these shots, these graphene-loaded, radiation manipulated shots. And I had to say, Sacha, I'm a little discouraged. I love your
I feel like
optimism.
it's even more than just that, though. It's literally all around us. It's 5G. It's what they're dropping from the skies. They're upping the juice right now. You can feel it. And I got migraine. No.
I agree with Sacha in the sense, Shannon, that when you use your power, you lose your power, and they're using their power, right? However, but a lot of folks, I'm talking about the majority of the birds flying right now in the world, at least the Western world, are going in that direction. Although people are waking up every day, but it seems like we lose a certain critical amount of people. Then it's just the rest, and the few that are left, and then the Satanists, and they're running the power role.
Well, it's the bifurcation again. This is the fulmination of the alchemical process of bifurcation. It's a natural, organic process. It's a very needful and righteous one in the scheme of things. Because at the end of the day, anyone choosing to identify with the public health administrative mandates of a satanic intervention through genetic intervention and chemical synthetic molecules being pumped into your blood with steel needles, if that appeals to you, if you feel so much in deficit as an angelic, as a spiritual being, that you feel the need to be interceded at the genetic level, and you then grant your permissions to your local doctor or nurse or public health official or government or the Catholic Church, then you are the one who is abdicating your consciousness, your Christed mantle in that moment, in that decision. And that is a perfect quid pro quo. That's perfect counterpoint geometry playing out in the field. So enough people collectively being you might need to bleep this, but mind fucked into the idea of we're going to be saved by government, we're going to be saved by Anthony Fauci.
Right.
That is an abdication, an abnegation at the collective level, and it's quite judicious, righteous, and needful that many people will then fall victim to graphene being pumped into their blood, and then them being subjected to electromagnetic frequency intervention, which is the dialing into the field of the demon, the egregore. It's just the egregore now using technology, nanoparticulates, which should proliferate everywhere. Again, because we collectively permissioned the infiltration of our air, water, and soil through agrochemical and petrochemical proliferation. All of that was an incremental dialing in of the kingdom of the devil at the molecular level and the subatomic level. So the entire etheric field of this earth plane is now saturated with nanoparticulates, heavy metals in simple terms. That means we've weaponized and become a macro antenna system for the dialing in of information. So we've permissioned a tangible interaction between the egregore, the demonic realms, and the temporal 3D realm. We granted permissions every step of the way since the Rockefeller Covenant about 100 years ago, which was the again systemic polluting of our air, water, and soil with synthetic molecules. It comes down to synthetic molecules. If you want to understand the source code of the kingdom of the devil, I've maintained this for a long time. Look no further than the geometry of a synthetic molecule. It is completely antithetical to anything sentient organic. And we've allowed our entire plane of existence to be saturated. Mm-hmm. So now we're a walking, talking field, an antenna system. We've permissioned the egregore into the field. But what that's done at the same time is created such an existential threat to the true value of the Christed, the anointed ones, that we are becoming empowered and strengthened because of the contrast that brings into the field. So the second coming, in that sense, is the resurrection of us from being the walking dead, from being in the dream spell for thousands of years. You must begin to see it as that, because that is the truth of the matter. So the bifurcation, the fulmination of the bifurcation process has now led us into the diamond being born in the coal. The same metaphor I've been using for 15 years now. But that diamond is palpably being born now. We can see it, we can touch it. When Shannon said earlier that, speaking in terms of having a sense of dread and fear, yes, we all feel that. You'd be subhuman not to feel that sense of dread, but that's not the point. The point is to not identify with that dread. It's okay to be walking through the valley of death and to be surrounded with death and surrounded with this cacophony of evil, but as long as one does not identify with it, as long as one is seated within the throne of self, again, bearing witness, not casting judgment. I do not judge the Bill Gateses of this world. I don't judge these people. I see them. I bear witness to them. And I also recognize that so long as the collective is in a willful state of ignorance, it will be manifesting in the field these satanic icons in order to teach, to reflect back. And once we recognize that each of us are fully protected as we walk through this valley of death, then there is nothing whatsoever to fear. The new contagion, the contagion must become fearlessness. That is the true virus that is spreading.
I'll tell you what, you're such a professional. The 3 questions I asked, you just answered. I swear to God, you just read my mind. But I wonder, could it be as simple as, because I love what you said about the permission. Like, as a collective, we've allowed it. So what about us as individuals? Could it be as simple as just not consenting?
Yes, of course it is as simple as that. One actualized human being can save a million brain dead human beings in a sense, depending on your fortitude and stamina. But as you move into the field, having rocks thrown at your head and having sniper attacks and energetic attacks and psychic assaults and being cast as an outlaw, as being somebody, as a lunatic, all of that. This is the importance of the Joker in the pack. This is the importance, if anyone does tarot, there are certain tarot cards which determine that you are now the Joker. You are now the outcast. You will be ridiculed. You will not be welcomed. A prophet is never received in their own home. Remember that. And now we're seeing prophets pop up in suburbia all around the world. It's fantastic. How many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of otherwise mundane humans, meaning to say caught up in the trap of the matrix, are awakening and becoming prophetic and prophets in their own home and broadcasting pure truth to their ignorant families and colleagues and friends. We know this. This is the conversation taking place in every coffee shop, is how people are feeling that they have been abandoned by family, they've been outcast by family because they've been the ones speaking pure truth in the midst of this heinous evil. That's a beautiful thing. That's the birth and the genesis of the collective prophet, the prophecy at the collective level.
Brilliant. Speaking of outcasts and jokers, of course, we're all good company here, but you as an outcast of one affecting many for the good has been remarkable, and what you've been able to bring to the table, like some of the things maybe you could share. Because what I love about what you're doing, this is the bottom line, Sacha, there's probably nobody better out there who could encapsulate what really is going on from a spiritual and a 3D perspective, right? And then what you're focusing all your attention on these days is how you want to create heaven on earth. That's the name of the show. How do you create heaven on earth, right? And like, for example, you're doing the Lazarus Initiative, and you're having, of course, your Guerrilla Network. Share a little bit what you think humanity could benefit from by being the outcast, finding the fearlessness in them, because even courage begins with fear, and then going through it, right? and starting these type of initiatives, and share what you're doing and maybe people how they could model from some examples you've had.
Thank you for the question, because it gives me a chance to explain. I mean, the reason why I'm doing my best to wield two swords at the same time, one which is frontline activism, tearing the mask off and speaking truth to power and diving into the mud, into the dirt,